Little Eagles and families. It's Mrs. Mishler here. I wanted to read to you one of my very favorite stories. The story is called The Snail and the Whale by Julia Donaldson. And she's written some other really good books like Room on the Broom, or maybe you've heard of The Gruffalo. This story is such a good one. And this little snail in our story, you can see him on the whale's tail. This little snail hitches a ride with a whale and goes on some amazing adventures. And I'm really anxious to go on some adventures. So let's take a listen to this story. The illustrations are really amazing, and our illustrator is Alex Scheffler. So let's take a look inside. Okay, here we go. This is a tale of a tiny snail and a great big gray-blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot. And this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. As she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. See the ships out there. These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wriggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sighed and sniffed, then cried, I've got it, I'll hitch a lift." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail that looped and curled and said, "Lift wanted around the world." See the little snail writing the message? This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright, a humpback whale immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. It held it out of the star-lit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." See the little snail hopping on to the whale's tail? This is the sea so wild and free that carried the whale and the snail on its tail to towering icebergs and far-off lands. You see the big icebergs? It's cold there. And the penguins. We know penguins live in the cold. With fiery mountains and golden sands. Oh, nice and warm there. The volcano. And there is the little snail still on the tail of the whale. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. And these are the caves beneath the waves, where stripy fish and feathery fins, and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam around the whale and the snail on his tail. Oh, that's deep in the ocean. This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. Boy, I sure wouldn't want to be out there in that thunderstorm. As she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sands, she gazed and she gazed, amazed by it all, and she said to the whale, "I feel so small." But then came the day the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. This is the tide slipping away. Uh-oh, the whale's stuck. And this is the whale lying beached in the bay. Quick, off the sand, back to the sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land, I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. The snail's going somewhere. Let's find out. Ah, this is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board as black as soot, and this is the snail with an itchy foot. A snail, a snail! The teacher turned pale. Look, said the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of a tiny snail, a slithery trail saying, save the whale. Let's see what happens. These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen, digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. We know whales need water to live. Everyone's helping. And this is the tide coming into the bay. And these are the villagers shouting, hooray, as the whale and the snail travel safely away. All the people's hard work. And the snail's back in the sea. Wonderful. And there's Snail on his tail. Back to the dock and the flock on the rock who said, how time's flown and haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice in coral caves and shooting stars in enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery tail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled the snail, after snail, after snail. All the other snails think this might be a lot of fun. We're going to take a ride too with the whale and see the world. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the gray-blue humpback whale. Can you see all the snails on the tail? And off they go for an adventure. I really love this story, Little Eagles. I hope you enjoyed it too. And I hope soon we can all get out for some adventuring. Until then, take very much care. Bye.